September is Baby Safety Month, a good time for first-time parents, parents of growing families with big brothers and sisters, as well as the grandparents to review important information to keep their children safe and healthy. For today's To Your Wellbeing, we are joined by Cone Health pediatrician Dr. Yun Boylston. Let's start with baby-proofing your home, Dr. Boylston. So there are obvious places, right, that you're going to baby-proof. You're going to do those electrical sockets, and you're going to make sure that any kind of cord or whatever is up. But what are some of the maybe not so obvious things that parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles maybe too, that are going to be watching kids that they need to look out for?
That's a great question, Tanya. Families tend to be very good about baby-proofing fixtures like the cords, sharp corners. But one thing that often is overlooked would be everyday items that can potentially be a choking hazard. These include things like detergent pods, in the laundry room, maybe certain medicines or other things that might be kept out in the open, Legos or other small little objects that older children may have, as well as something that seems really innocent like a remote control, which can have button batteries that are certainly a risk for small infants and toddlers.
Because the first thing they want to do is put them in their mouth, of course, right? And all you need is that back hatch that's a little loose, and then there's the batteries, and down they go. Okay, what is the best way to identify where to baby-proof? Because I think sometimes you look around the house and you're like, I got this, and then you're like, ooh, I probably should take a few more steps, but I don't even know where to begin.
Yes. First, it would be a great idea to, one, not get overwhelmed and kind of get in the position where the child or infant is going to experience the room. And so typically that's on the ground in kind of crawler mode, if you do have a mover, and kind of look at what might cause trouble. What looks really tempting and colorful, what might they pull down on, and what else might fall down because of that. And the other thing that I think helps parents is the baby doesn't need free reign over your entire house. It might be just their bedroom and a good part of the living room. And so really focus on those areas. Areas like your laundry room, your kitchen, or the bathroom, the baby really does require close supervision. And so they should be monitored at all times in those environments.
Okay. So for parents who already have kids and they think, oh, I've got this because I've been down this road before, it is not my first rodeo, what kind of advice do you have?
Yeah, I think that tends to be when parents get a little complacent, and sometimes it's actually those situations that tend to lead to trouble. I think it's always a good idea to approach each infant or child with a fresh set of eyes. Their temperament may be different. That child may get into things that maybe older children didn't. And also recommendations can change within the years between children. And so there certainly are product recalls or things that families may have used with older children that really may not be recommended at this time. And so staying up to date is really important.
All right, let's talk about that, the staying up to date, because we're going to talk about sleeping, the do's and don'ts. And you've got parents and grandparents who said, well, this is the way I put you to sleep. Why can't I put the baby to sleep this way? So what are the do's and don'ts?
Right. And, that can be a kind of a fine line for families because clearly we all made it. But I always say we know a little bit better now, and it's really to minimize risk. And so the current recommendations are for all infants under 12 months is to always put them on their back to sleep in their own space. And for several reasons. So one would be, we certainly want to reduce SIDS risk, which is sudden infant death syndrome. We want to avoid any sort of suffocation during sleep. And we also want to promote really good uninterrupted sleep patterns. And so being in their own space, on their back. And then within that bassinet or crib environment, it's really important to avoid any plush objects like pillows, bumpers, plush blankets, or stuffed animals. It really should be a really Spartan environment with just a thin blanket and a firm mattress. That's what's best at this time.
And of course, that's not how they sell the baby set of sheets and the way that they set up the room, right, in the decor. Right. But that is what needs to happen. Okay. It's still hot outside today. I know we're going to get a little burst of fall weather, but there are still reports of babies and children being left in cars. So can we talk about some recommendations and some things you want parents to know?
Absolutely. And, when we hear about that, that's such a tragic event. And certainly we want to do everything we can to to reduce that risk. And for parents who are on the go, this is a really frenzied time. Parents are often distracted and have a lot on their minds. But I think that if you just come up with a mental tool that, kids and keys. So it might be something as simply as I take the keys out, and you always want to check, especially if you have an infant carrier in the car. I think just a little spot check that you kind of hardwire into your car routine can be really helpful and prevent those lapses in attention.
All right, and so there's advice for people without kids even related to hot cars.
Sure, of course. And for parents and as well as anyone who might care for children or have children in their environment, good habits are to just lock the car when it's not in use. And that's to prevent just good habits to prevent theft. But also, if you have children playing outside, they might get into the cars, they may accidentally lock themselves in. And so we really want to avoid those preventable situations.
All right. Well, we're going to continue on baby safety. And coming up next, we're going to be talking about baby safety and COVID. So we're going to be joining the doctor right after this break. We'll see you back here in just about 2 minutes.